We are live, and Carlos, do you want to do do you have a new intro? Have you workshopped it?
I have not. Food Tech News Show
All
starting
right,
right
kind of low,
now.
kind of low energy, but that's okay. And
Oh, it's my dog.
and this is gonna be a show full of dog noises.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute
And
myself.
and I'm gonna introduce you, Kristen. Kristen Hawley, thank you for joining us. And Kristen, I've known you for a few years now. You're a longtime food tech, restaurant tech journalist that's
Mhm,
written for tons of publications. You just had a story come out in Fasco,
mhm,
and we'll be talking about it. Welcome to
Great.
the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, my dog is really happy to be here as well. You may hear her.
He's the fourth commentator.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh, welcome to the show. What's his name?
Her name is Heidi, and she has
Hi.
very strong feelings about the future of hospitality.
All right,
So
Heidi. Is she an
mhm.
intern or is she just she do
She's my
research for you?
assistant. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right. We're
Perfect.
we're friends of dogs on the show, so that's pretty welcome. But let's get to the stories. This first story you wrote for Fasco, it's about Blackbird. I also wrote a story on Spoon. I had a chance to talk with Ben Leventhal as well. So
Mhm,
the story is about Blackbird Pay. Blackbird
mhm,
is a company founded by Resi and Eater founder Glenn Leventhal. And this week he announced Blackbird Pay. And from your story, I will quote: Blackbird is a guest loyalty and payments platform that wants to better connect restaurants and diners. It's built on the blockchain. You go on to say that Blackbird Pay invites diners to pay with the app at participating restaurants, either using stored credit card information or the platform's loyalty points. And they charge restaurants a 2% processing fee, which is lower than the typical fee. I think it's like 3.5% if you're doing credit card fees. So, Kristen, you've been following. You probably known Ben for a long time,
I have.
as have I, and it's an interesting development for them. What did you make of this?
Well, this has always been on the roadmap for Blackbird, and this feels like, and when I spoke to Ben, and when I've spoken in the past, it's sort of the feature that ties the whole platform together. Like you can finally understand. I think when it launched, there was a lot of like, what? Why would I do that? I don't understand. And on both sides, on the diner side and the restaurant side, and I said too in my coverage, like, it takes significant buy-in from both diners and restaurants to make this work. But what they are doing with the introduction of payments, and specifically allowing payments with their proprietary token, is that they're not sort of, they are tying the entire experience together, because guests earn this token, what I refer to as loyalty points at the top of the story for purposes of explanation. But then they can also, yeah, they earn the token, they can pay with the token, and then, to come later this year, restaurants can also pay Blackbird's platform fees with the same token. So it becomes this like economy of
Hmm.
they refer to it as the restaurant economy, and everything's happening within their platform. So um, this is not like a one-off feature. This is very much like ingrained into how
Yeah,
this works
yeah.
and the future success. It's how they're going to make their money. So
Yeah, yeah.
big deal.
And the way Ben explained it to me is it's not like a rip and replace system where you might come in and replace a toast or a
Hmm.
square. It's an overlay that works with those existing point of sale systems. And you're right. Like when they first came out, like a lot of the buzz was about, okay, it's blockchain, it's Web3 based, and this was
Hmm.
at the height. I think still,
Hmm.
we hadn't seen kind of the dark winter that has set onto the blockchain or crypto world. But they've always kind of kept that. It's been a thing, but Ben hasn't overplayed that card, I think.
No, they've done a good job of being like, here's the utility, and if you care, here's how it's built, and here's the Web3 thing. I think this definitely ties them together. And I think this is the point. I didn't write this in my coverage, but I think I should have probably put it in there, that, you do need to pay attention to how it's built, because that is the whole point. It's no longer like, oh, I don't understand Web3. It's like, actually, this is a really, really clear and concise example of how that sort of technology shows up in a human powered business. So.
Yeah, and he claims, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion. And I don't claim to be a blockchain expert. I don't think you claim to be a
No.
blockchain expert, but he says blockchain is essential to the feature set that they're now starting to show, like tying these loyalty points to the payment system. And
Mhm.
then on the restaurant owner side, you get this information about the person like that you can then maybe tailor and do personalized experiences around.
Yes, it is. It is fundamental to the way that this operates. 100%.
Carlos, are you do you care at all about this, or are you
Well, I
excited
think
about
it's
it?
interesting to have blockchain back in the conversation. And like it kind of came and went. But this, like you said, Kristen, I think is a perfect example of like if you see it in application and how to use it in a restaurant setting or whatever, then it just becomes a thing that we use
Mhm.
instead of like a buzzword or something. So if
Yes.
it works, I'll use it,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And unlike, I mean, I don't know if the name Adam Brotman rings a bell, but he had some news this week. I didn't feature the story, but he's now with 4 and 3. He was head of digital for Starbucks, and he came out this week with news from his now, I guess, reskinned company that is an AI lab.
Mhm.
They were a Web3 lab like a couple years
Okay.
ago, but now they're all about AI, and so
Of course.
they did like an AI marketing machine, but
Huh.
um,
Well,
so yeah, unlike them, I think Ben has continued to push forward and pioneer forward in blockchain, and like you said, this kind of ties the whole story together.
it does. I mean, still comparatively tiny to most other loyalty platforms, payments platforms. So, big like adoption curve situation
Yeah,
that they have.
yeah,
That's the challenge. It's not they've raised $35 million. They have a really great way of talking about the product. He's great at he and his team are great at convincing people that this is like a viable option. Whether I believe that or not doesn't matter. It
yeah,
matters if
yeah.
restaurants want to use it. So.
And kind of the reason we're even paying attention is Ben he's kind of 2 for 2, right? He
Mhm.
founded Eater, really kind of a seminal food culture publication, and then he went and founded Resi. I think they sold that to Amex, and so
Mhm.
this is like he continues to have hits. So I think that's kind of why this is also interesting.
It's true. That narrative, I've seen it. I didn't want to put it in the story. My editor was like, "You got to put it in the story because that's the most. That's the relevance. It's
Yeah,
tiny
that's why.
company." And fair. I'll concede it. Fair.
Let's move on to the next story. And this wasn't a story published in a publication, but I don't know if you've been following Andrew Simmons at all,
Mhm.
Kristen. He's an interesting guy I've been following, and he's gotten a lot of traction and just people following him because he has been pioneering this concept where he took his restaurant in San Diego, basically replaced a lot of the human workers with robotics, and then he started doing this really interesting pizza subscription plan to fund his growth and just very much building a public on LinkedIn. I've written a couple stories about him,
Mhm.
and really interesting this week, and kind of sad because I talk to the guy a lot. He's a nice guy, consider him a
Mhm.
friend. He basically wrote this week on a post. I think it went live today or yesterday. He said basically after sinking $300,000 of my own money into this pizza venture, living a wild journey of introducing automation to a reluctant local community and building a support network of folks in the restaurant industry, it has all come to an abrupt end. He basically said he's winding down all his restaurants that he owns. He has licensed out the concept to a few people, and those are continuing on. But he says he spent like a lot of his own money. And they also
Mhm.
the weird thing is the news came this week. I got a press release. I don't know if you got it as well from a company called Resto GPT, basically saying they launched a pizza subscription program based on Andrew's concept.
Yeah.
And I think in the post, Andrew basically said that they've kind of taken him off the branding. It's just kind of weird and confusing, but I don't know. What did you? I think he was great to read his post. He was building in
Mhm.
public. It was really interesting, but it's kind of a sad ending for him.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. That's part of the risk of building in public and being so open. What percentage of startups fail? I don't know the
Yeah,
number,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like I can tell you, 60% of restaurants in the first year, whatever that is, maybe in the first 5 years. Anyway, I think I don't know what to say about it. It's kind of like I think that it was an important and laudable effort. He very clearly tried very hard to make this model work. And, this model doesn't work is a viable conclusion to an experiment. That happens all the time.
Yeah,
It happens a lot in pizza and robotics, like maybe
yeah,
proportionally more than to other restaurant technology startups. But I don't know. I
yeah,
mean, you can't fault someone for not startup founder
yeah. He
happens.
tried, and he wasn't like one of these like companies that raised a bunch of venture capital. He was
Yeah.
basically rolling his own stack by piecing together parts, restaurant automation that's already out there,
Hmm.
like using the picnic pizza robot, etc.
Hmm.
The one thing I thought when he was expanding quickly is I thought, why are you going to Philadelphia and doing it in all these different states most restaurant expansion I see is usually in like a certain geographic area. Just look at Wonder, for example. They've raised a ton of money. It's all in the New York, New
Yeah.
Jersey area. So that meant he had to get on planes, and,
Yeah.
and that just consumes so much time and bandwidth. But
Well, but then you could also argue that you're testing it in very vastly different markets to see where it sticks. I don't know. I don't have any insight into this business. I do have a lot of insight into pizza automation robotics startups that have raised
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they failed too. I did a 5,000 word piece about Zoom pizza that took, $500 million from SoftBank and suffered the same fate. So
yeah,
tough business.
Zoom, ZUME. That was quite an interesting pivot. Great story. And that was in Fastco.
Well, also in Fast Company. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to this next story. This is right in your wheelhouse. DoorDash sees digital order surge despite industry headwinds, and quoting from, I think it was a piece in Payments, said, as consumers look to cut costs amid ongoing financial pressures, DoorDash is seeing that digital ordering is largely protected from the traffic declines experienced across other channels in the restaurant industry. It goes on to say the San Francisco restaurant aggregator shared details on August 1st, yesterday, about a second quarter 2024 earnings, and they said that orders rose 19% year over year and revenue was up 23%. Why is this proving to be so, I guess, recession proof, or kind of doing so well against the headwinds that other kind of formats are?
I don't know.
Good answer.
This is why we bring Kristen on the show.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm sure that there's some analysts and perhaps journalists who have answers to this. I think that maybe and this is all just anecdotal observation on my part, like delivery is seen as a luxury product still, especially in the face of these additional fees and costs. When it was like heavily subsidized by venture capital in the growth phase in the ZERP era, like, it was a convenience play, and now it is a cost for convenience. People know, everyone knows. I was doing a Peloton ride like 2 days ago, and the instructor was complaining that like their Taco Bell order cost $80. But then he was like, but I didn't want to go outside, and I understand that's the cost of delivery, and then like moving on, so perhaps it is that, perhaps it is we understand that the convenience is worth paying for, and that the people who are using it and fueling these orders are maybe not as price sensitive.
I'm just impressed that your Peloton instructor is ordering $80 worth of Taco Bell. Like
Taco
he's gonna have
Bell,
to ride
yeah.
a lot of miles to work all that calories off.
Spin teacher.
Spin teacher. He's spinning a lot to burn all those calories off. But yeah, I mean, I wonder if I don't know if we get that level of granularity on Uber Eats or the other ones, but it'd be interesting to see how the other guys are holding up in regards to this. I mean, I just know generationally, my daughter is kind of that or like millennial or Gen Z. They love, no matter what, they spend a big proportion of their income on ordering out and ordering DoorDash and those types of things, Uber Eats. And so I just wonder if people just got accustomed to it during the pandemic and have just kept on plugging away at those habits.
Well, what's interesting though is that while that's true, there is a ton of layoffs happening. I know because I was part of one of them in the tech industry and the game industry. And it's just interesting that keeps up, because it is a huge cost. And it's just kind of funny that it happens at the same time that I think some people are going through pretty hardship times. So interesting.
It's been so resilient, with very limited exception. Every tech company, including DoorDash and Uber, have had layoffs, but not at the same, I guess, pace and frequency. I'm sorry. I'm a journalist. It happens to me all the time too.
Yeah.
We have another story. Let's go on to the story about Taco Bell. And this was interesting. Taco Bell and Yum Brands announced this week that they're going to expand their voice AI to hundreds of locations in 2024. They put out a press release saying that they basically they're targeting hundreds of stores by the end of this year. And they're primarily looking at right now Taco Bell. But Yum Brands, as you know, owns KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. And they said that they plan to expand the voice AI platform to other properties within the Yum universe. And so I don't know, Kristen, have you ever gone through one of these drive-thrus where it's an AI voice bot talking to you?
No, I live in San Francisco. I don't go through many drive-throughs generally.
We need to talk to your Peloton instructor. Maybe he's
Yeah,
going to
well,
do
he's
this
in New York
'cause
City, but
oh, okay.
perhaps the, I this is a little bit tangential, but I'm wondering, based on what we've heard about AI voice assist so far, and that's like it works really well. And then I think even one company said they were going to back off their human intervention so it would actually make some mistakes, so it would learn more and learn
Oh,
more
interesting.
quickly. And so I'm wondering what the tolerance is for mistakes in this brave new world of robots taking your order. Because for example, I live in San Francisco, you're in Seattle, we have self-driving cars on our roads, and there is like extremely limited tolerance for any sort of error, right? Like it's not good enough for them to be better than the human drivers. They have to be perfect or near
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if voice AI in the service business will have that same expectation, or
Yeah.
will people tolerate mistakes when the robot makes them, or do they expect 100% perfection? Because I think that will determine the speed and success of any major rollout at a fast food company. I don't know.
Good point. I mean, the stakes aren't as high, right? Like as with
Yeah.
like something that's moving and could run you over.
Yes.
I think sometimes these systems have pretty quick backup. At least my understanding is like, okay, it confuses something, like there's a human there to pick it up pretty quickly. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but yeah, so it kind of depends, I think, on the default systems, how good it is. But yeah, I think all of us hate. I mean, I can't stand when I get a robot and I'm calling customer support.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Person.
I think
Person.
it's it's that same annoyance that might trigger us at the drive-through, right?
Mhm.
Which we can say at the drive-through, person, and a person will probably be there. Also, McDonald's closed theirs. Remember, I think we
Yes.
talked about it.
Yeah.
So,
But they made
yeah.
clear they were going to bring it back. I think they just shuttered. I think they were using IBM's technology, and they basically kind of wound that down.
See, well, then that speaks to what I'm saying. It's like what is the quality? What's the tolerance? What's the mistakes? What's the how good does it have to be? Like, what is the metric by which? I wonder what like did McDonald's say? I don't know the answer to this. Did they say that it wasn't performing?
I think that they were very general and high level. I think partly because they didn't want to maybe insult IBM in public. I think they kind of framed it as, "Hey, we're just experimenting. We're trying lots of technologies." I don't know. I don't want to say that IBM's technology wasn't up to the task. You just don't know. I feel like, I feel like they're going to be they're going to be very careful, because McDonald's, I think, just is going to be very cautious on that stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it was just a bunch of errors, and those errors were going public, and so they didn't want to. They wanted to save face kind of quick. And by the way, to finish this story, I normally do some AI pictures. So I put in futuristic taco drive-through.
right.
There's one.
It's kind of got a retro drive-through vibe too, though.
Yeah, both these are interesting, kind of like neon, weird, retro too. But yeah, the robots are helping there. And then this is the other one, which is kind of cool looking.
I bet someone would build that.
Yeah, looks like something like those, Elon Musk would build at like a charging station or something.
A&W, remember A&W comes out and gives you your food? It seems like that.
Yeah. Sonic.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, that is the description. That's the description of his drive-in movie theater, isn't it? In LA area, he basically has, you can drive up and charge your Tesla, and then they're playing movies there, and people come on roller skates to bring your food. I think that's. I haven't checked in on that store for a while, but let's move on to this next story. Amazon gave a really interesting peek behind the scenes, or under the hood, or however you want to phrase it. Yesterday, John Jenkins, people who know him from the Smart Kitchen Summit world, JJ, he's now running Just Walk Out for Amazon. And he basically gave a tour to some journalists and also wrote a post about their new model. And it says it's a lot more efficient than the previous model. The previous model was built on 2018 technology, and because of that, it was fairly limited, and they processed all the inputs sequentially. So when there were complex situations in Just Walk Out, like a bunch of people trying to access the same freezer aisle at the same time, the computers would get confused, which meant a lot of cleanup when you were at checkout. Apparently now this new system processes all these inputs simultaneously, the images, the sensor information, the weight information, if you pick stuff up off there. And so I think this is interesting. Carlos, did you ever go to Just Walk Out in downtown Seattle?
I did, and I think I used it. Yeah, I used it like once. I was like, I don't think I need this.
It's a weird feeling. We've talked about this before. It's a weird feeling. Kristen, have you ever gone into one of these and walked out with everyone?
Maybe at an airport? Are they in airports? Were they in airports?
I think they're in airports. Yeah. Stadiums too.
Yeah. Yes. Also, yes, weird and fine. And like, okay, I get, I think this is another one of those consumer tolerance questions.
Yeah.
Like if this like groundbreaking new technology that makes it easier for you actually just like makes the line longer at a different part of the experience. It's not really doing anything. So sure.
I think where I like it is at stadiums, because that's a time where I actually do want to get back to my seat really quickly. So if they can expedite that, where I can get in, get out, just pick something up, run out, grab my bag of chips, get back to and watch the ball game. That makes sense. And it makes sense that they also pulled it out of their fresh stores, because I think, and then they never put it in a Whole Foods, because Whole Foods to me is always like one of those where they have more of a white glove experience, where the cashiers want to talk to you. But well, it sounds like Kirsten, you're not a fan though. Just generally, you're kind of skeptical.
Not skeptical, just more like, I mean, how much time, money, effort needs to go into this like innovation that do we really even need it? Like, who's asking for this? Kind of thing. And like,
Carlos
how will it be used? Yeah. Are you? No.
Me?
Carlos?
I'm not asking for it at all. No.
Yeah. I just, there are some things that the technology business likes to optimize. I'm making air quotes, and I'm not always sure if it's an optimization. And that's when you see me get skeptical. Michael likes to call me out for being skeptical of new things. That's fine.
No, I appreciate it. I actually appreciate that. All right. Last story is a fun one. And this actually isn't breaking news or anything, but my daughter, who is on social media a lot, sent me this little Instagram of this kind of crazy looking restaurant experience. And I went and looked into it. It's called Le Petit Chef. And it's this immersive dining experience. And I don't know if we can show the video or not.
I'm going to show the video. It's a minute long. So you can turn our audio on. I don't know if we should just play it for a little while. It'll turn our audio off.
Just so people get a taste, and we'll
here
go the podcast. Magic. All right. Cut.
The video's
cut.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I thought this was crazy, kind of weird looking. I'm always interested to see new experiences in restaurants. And it wasn't quite like an augmented reality type of thing, but it was like an interesting projection onto like your on your dinner table. First of all, had you heard of Le Petit Chef before, Kristen?
No, but I, as the parent of two young daughters who are very particular about dinner, I'm kind of like, oh, I wonder if this will work in my house to get them to eat things that are perhaps new, because that makes it novel and fun. Could be a great tool for occupational therapists trying to help kids eat more. I don't know.
Yeah. For those
I hadn't heard of it.
People are just listening in. What it is essentially, there's, I think, projectors above the tables, and it projects little animated people running around on your plate and moving stuff. And then like they actually deliver in the restaurant. They actually deliver it to you. It's the food. So I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a cool experience. It seems like something like you'd see in Japan or something,
or Disneyland.
Or Disneyland.
Yeah.
So, Kristen, you're not skeptical. This is something because you're a parent. You want this. It sounds like you want to try it out.
Like bring it to my house. Yeah. It's fun, cute, fun content stuff. It's fun. Okay.
Matt G, who's watching the live stream from LinkedIn, says he would definitely check it out, and he thinks kids would love it. So I think that's the takeaway here. Kids would love this. My kids are a little bit old for this, but I still would try it out. But that's just me. This is we had some stories went pretty quick. Carlos, any kind of AI, any last minute pictures you want to show us?
Oh, I know. I was supposed to do one at the end. I don't have one, so we're done.
Oh,
It's this. How about this? My background. For the video people watching, I put video games over here. So these are different weird consoles that don't exist. And then this is some sort of food making machine, which I think is making meat.
A meat
So I'm
making
not
machine.
super
Ah.
happy about what's
Yeah.
coming out of it.
The meat
Interesting.
printer. The meat
Yeah.
printer. All right. Hey, Kristen, I always enjoy talking to you and having you at our events. And
Thanks.
people who haven't checked your writing out, they should go to, is it expedite.news? Is that your website?
Expedite.news is my twice weekly newsletter about restaurant technology and the future of hospitality. And then you can find my bylines, Fast Company, Insider, Food and Wine, Bon Appetit, etc. Occasionally.
Occasionally. And you have a podcast?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's I would call it a MVP stage. It's called the Simmer. We are on a little bit of a break because schedules have been wild this summer. But me and my co-host Brandon, who is an executive in the food technology space, talk to other executives and leaders in restaurant tech and talk about what we think is going to happen. A lot of it is conversations that he and I were having anyway. And so we just hit record on them. It's fun. It's casual. It's funny. There's good stuff. I don't know. It's good stuff to come this fall. We have a lot of really solid guests coming up.
All right. Everyone
Cool.
check it out.
Check
The
it
Simmer and Expedite and all the other places you can find Kristen Hawley.
Thank
You for joining us. Carlos, thank you for doing this as always.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
And everyone, we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.